Welcome to episode 28. I think it's 28 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by Novig. I'm your host, Johnny Lazarus, joined by my good friends, longtime NHL reporter Arthur Staple and Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. Fellas, no time to waste today. We got breaking news. Well, I don't know if it's breaking news, but lots of things. And episode 29, Vic just corrected me behind the scenes. So episode 29 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by Novig. Rangers, busy day. Vincent Trocheck obviously making his comments out of practice today, which I think most people would have expected. We haven't talked since the Adam Fox comments in the post game from earlier this week or earlier last week. Geez, my time is like totally out of it right now. But it's great to be back with you guys. Great to catch up on things. Obviously, Matthew Schaefer scoring 20 goals we'll get into, and then the Devils deadline as it approaches here on Friday. Let's just get right into it, right? I want to ask how your guys' weekends were, but we don't have time to waste today. We got some voicemails too, so we got to get to those.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, who gives a shit? Sorry. Vincent Trocheck, let's start there, guys. Are his comments unfair? I don't think it's totally – I don't think it's anything to make a huge fuss of, knowing what we all know. Arthur, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's allowed to talk about it. You know, he's allowed to – say, in his scrum this morning after the morning skate, he was pretty clear. He said, I'm 32 years old. I'd like to win a Stanley Cup. He said very upfront, which guys don't usually talk about, where his 12-team no trade lies. It's all West Coast. His family's all East Coast. So he wants to stay there. He, added a human element with his son, Leo, who's been a fixture in the locker room, saying, you can go. I need to stay. My team is here. And Leo is 7, so precocious comments from him. I expect nothing less from a Trocheck, a guy who knows how to handle himself in front of a microphone. But yeah, maybe management, maybe the Garden isn't thrilled by that because he is still playing for them tonight. But he's a veteran. He's been around. I think he's entitled. If his name is being thrown out there in rumors and being talked about, and the insiders and everybody and all of us know who's talking about him and what the offers are or anything, I think it's perfectly fair for him to address them. And I think I give him credit for honesty. Some guys will just be like, no, not going to talk about it until it's done. Yeah. But he's not a guy who doesn't want to be here. He wants to win, and the Rangers need to move on and do this retool. And he's a big part of it. He is the number one forward out there right now on the market. You could say, maybe Robert Thomas is a bit, he's younger, he's maybe a bit more talented, but of the guys we know that are available, Trocheck's number one. So you have to think he's going to get traded. He has to think he's going to get traded. I think he's making his peace with it. I'm a little baffled that he's playing tonight. I know that says we still got 4 days until the deadline. So obviously Chris Drury's trying to keep his options open. You don't want him sitting too long, but what a nice way it would have been to go out, getting the shootout winner against Pitt over the weekend, and having that be his swan song. But I think what he said today, if he's in the opening lineup tonight, I think he gets a big ovation from the Garden. He deserves it. He's been a real solid citizen and a guy who's embraced being a Ranger for the time he's been here.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'd love to see a nice applause for him and just for what he does. I mean, he wears his heart on his sleeve. Like that, we've known that for quite some time. He was one of those guys. I know a lot of people probably thought he should have been the next captain of the Rangers.
I did.
So I mean, he's one of those guys you rally around. I mean, geez, we see this and saw this just even with Team USA, the things that he does that maybe don't make the score sheet, that the hard work is a player that he brings. I love Vinny. I love that he's honest and pretty open in his interview as well. So that's a great point, Arthur. It'd be sweet if you just got a real appreciation. I think we did get to see that in some regards. I love the USA chants in the shootout there and seeing Vinny do that. But yeah, this is he's the guy for me. He's that available guy on the market that I think can really make the needle move for some teams. So we'll see what happens this week.
And just to further along with the comments he made this morning, one thing Molly Walker put out there, this was what Vinny said as far as the reports of him not wanting to be on the West Coast. So he said, I'm sure you're relating to the quote unquote, I don't want to be out West talk on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And yeah, it's not a secret. They are on my no trade cause. Family is important to me, and my family is on the East Coast. So that's another thing that's a part of the conversation too. When a player openly talks about the teams that are on his no trade list, some might say, again, with the Rangers, that gives them less leverage knowing that certain teams are out of the question, right? So if you limit the teams, like I think it was reported Utah being one of them, I think LA was another one that Elliot Friedman may have mentioned. Now that they're, not within reach of this trade, what does Chris Drury have to? I don't think that's such a big deal. Like I've seen people say that and make a big deal of that, but it's been reported for a while that the teams are like Carolina, Minnesota, Detroit. I said Pittsburgh would be interesting too, honestly, with the amount of assets they have. And with that being his hometown, like I wouldn't put them out of the question. But I don't think this takes away from his leverage at all. And Arthur, to your point about him being in the lineup tonight, the Rangers don't have to trade him. It would be stupid to me if they didn't, but they don't have to. Like if the package that they have for Panarin, let's say, is the only thing that's offered to them, I don't think they should do it. Don't force it if you don't have to, No,
I agree there. But I think, this is going to be a week where there's still a lot of teams that consider themselves contenders. I mean, if you're in the East and you're in the top 8, you think you got a chance to make a finals for sure. I don't think that's changed. I understand Carolina's kind of putting some distance between them and Pitt and the Islanders. Tampa's kind of done it, but they're starting to come back to the pack a little bit. And we've said it all season. It's not a dominant season in the East. So if you're an East team, which is where he wants to be, if you're a Detroit, if you're a Buffalo, I don't know that he's what Buffalo needs, but I feel like Buffalo needs to do something to kind of reward their guys for what they've been doing. If Tampa can make it work, if Carolina, I think Carolina's always in on anybody that's available to try to make it work. If he wanted to go back there, I don't think he's an Islander candidate, but you look at those top guys in Pitt. Someone mentioned Pitt to me with him the other day too. That Kyle Dubas is thinking about the now and in the immediate future, especially if Geno Malkin doesn't end up staying. So there's a lot of options there, and I think there's so many teams, and he is a unique guy that's available. I think the price is going to get up high enough where Chris Drury won't be able to say no by Friday.
Mm-hmm. I think for Buffalo, as far as like teams that are in that mix go, I don't think they have enough like prospects. I know they have a couple first round picks over the next 3 years, but I think Chris Drury, from what I've heard, wants some sort of NHL ready now prospect. Like we've heard from Liam Greentree, like he's a guy who I think now most people would expect to come into camp next year and make the team. Like that's part of the return for Panarin. So I think he wants one of those guys. I don't know who Buffalo would move on from. The Islanders are interesting to me, but I don't think they would make the trade with the Islanders. But to your point, I think Pittsburgh, while they have this balance of Crosby for another year or two, Letang, Carlson, like they have this weird blend of old and new. Like why not give Sid, especially if they're in the playoff spot right now, why not give Sidney Crosby another chance at the playoffs in Pittsburgh if they have everything kind of in their favor right now, Yeah.
I wouldn't count Wash out of that group either because they made a run at Panarin. He didn't want to go there. So I don't know how far that conversation went. But, Washington, I feel like Washington, Detroit, Buffalo, they're guys, those are teams where maybe you could pick a guy off their NHL roster and get him instead of getting a guy who's on the cusp. You could get, you can't get Connor McMichael from Washington, but you could get a couple of guys. You could
Justin Sordiff.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. Maybe Buffalo wants to change their mix-up. Maybe you could get a Jack Quinn in a package for Trocheck. I don't know. That's probably a bigger ask maybe than Buffalo would want to do. But I'm just looking at teams. Detroit. We've talked about Marco Kasper a couple of times.
Yeah.
I think if you can go to a team and have more than one of them and pit them against each other in a bidding war, that you can take a guy who's already in the NHL and put him on your roster, who's 21 or 22 or 23 and is cost controlled. That's kind of the home run spot for Drury.
Rupert, do you have anything?
No, I feel like that team, to me, for some reason, I keep getting back to, I think Detroit. Detroit has pieces here that could be, we're looking at it from the standpoint too, where the fit of Vinny Trocheck with other teams, there's numerous. I mean, he's that kind of player who could do everything. So, I mean, there's a ton of fits. Now, what has to make sense for Chris Drury, and to your point, Johnny, it's got to make sense for him to do it, or you just simply don't do it right now. No. You find what the best return is. And I think, to Arthur's point, if you can get a couple teams going back and forth here, I think that Detroit is a team that has assets, pieces that if it gets into a little bit of a bidding war, I think that is a team that could probably step up.
And the reason why I think, again, like Ranger fans would probably be furious if they held on to him, right? But if the return isn't what you want, like we keep hearing these reports of the Rangers ask is too high. That's kind of what I heard in regards to Minnesota, that the Rangers are asking too much, especially for a team like Minnesota who just gave up a ton for Quinn Hughes earlier this year. And if it gets down to it, the problem would be is that Vinny's value is at its highest right now than it would be this summer, right? Like that's why it feels like they have to do it. Arthur?
I mean, what has he got? 2 years left beyond this one?
Three.
So I think that urgency argument is a little dented, that you could still make a move for him in the summer and still get a decent haul, because I think, especially when you get around the draft where teams are starting to assess, they know who they're going to lose, they know who they want to move on from as you're getting close to free agency. I don't think it's a terrible idea to wait. The problem for me is that even Vinny Trocheck is saying his goodbyes essentially with what he said this morning. So I feel like if you have a player that's ready to go, I think you got to move him then. And it's no knock on Vinny Trocheck. He's just been hearing it for a long time. He's watched what's happened to the team around him. I think if you have a player who has his bags packed, essentially, I think you're better off pulling the trigger then, because you too many unknowns, too many variables between now and June, say.
This might be very dumb just because of where they are in the standings, but is it foolish to leave out the Devils in this conversation?
Yes.
For Vinny?
It's foolish to leave them out, or foolish to not like.
Are you talking about for Vinny?
It's foolish.
Yeah, I'm saying for Vinny. It's foolish to bring it up.
Who would you trade? Dawson Mercer?
No, I'm just trying to think. Like, I mean, they could strengthen. Like, Vinny would be a perfect third line center if they're trying to build it back up for next year. I don't know.
If I'm Devils ownership, and we can talk about this more when we talk about the Devils, because it is a topic to discuss. Yeah. With this week,
I wasn't suggesting. I'm just like kind of thinking and looking. Like,
you got me so agitated I just kicked my desk. If you're Devils ownership and you are still waiting to decide on Tom Fitzgerald and Sheldon Keefe, and you're kicking that conversation to the offseason, I can't see how you're bringing in a guy with term right now. You can't be doing anything if you're ownership in terms of what Tom Fitzgerald is going to bring to you, discussions he's having, other than selling guys to clear some space, whether it's Dougie Hamilton, whether it's Brendan Dillon or Jonas Siegenthaler or one of their veteran D, maybe Cody Glass. I just don't make it a blockbuster trade right now, with your GM basically waiting to just hear his fate. I feel like it's a little too much responsibility, given that we don't know what's going to happen, or maybe we do and we're just sort of waiting for it.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so now let's get into Adam Fox. I think this is where it gets a little confusing for Ranger fans, because to me, we're still having that conversation. They said it's a retool, but it's starting to look like a rebuild. It is a rebuild. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. As soon as Panarin left, it's a rebuild. You can't retool without your best offensive player. Like, it's just not how it works to me. And I think Panarin being traded, honestly, also has a lot to do with Fox. Adam Fox, and Artemi Panarin live close by one another. Their on-ice chemistry has been there since Adam Fox stepped foot in the NHL. Like, they have played together every year of Fox's career, and Fox needs skilled guys around him, and that's all the Rangers are getting rid of. So, like, on the ice, Adam Fox can't be happy, and off the ice, with all the optics that we've talked about all year, he can't be happy. I don't think anyone in this situation right now, including Vinny Trocheck, is probably happy. But the comments, obviously, that were made the other night seemed to be escalated a bit, just because, it wasn't a glowing endorsement of wanting to be here through a retool / rebuild, whatever it is you want to call it, even though we all know the reality of it is a rebuild. But I mean, what did you guys make of those comments? I'll start with you, Rupper, just because Arthur and I have been going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he said. I think he was very truthful. And it's more what he didn't say. And I think that was, we always talk about in hockey, how you get those cliche answers, the ones that are kind of preloaded on the hard drive already. And the easy one there would have been, hey, I'm focused on what's going on right now. I love being a New York Ranger. This is where I want to be. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, or something on those lines. And that wasn't said. Part of it was said where I'm focused on today. It was more like, we'll have to have that discussion in the summer. And that made me think to myself, like, oh, okay, so that's interesting. And I think that was kind of the obvious, or at least I'm thinking of myself and put myself back in kind of the players' boots in this regard. I think there's going to have to be tough conversation. There's going to have to be maybe some patchwork being done. I don't think that everything is puppies and rainbows with the relationship with Adam Fox and the New York Rangers right now. And even to the degree of not knowing how much of a turnaround this is going to be, that doesn't even get to the point of some of the things that happened this year. I think I would have to guess that there is going to have to be some smoothing over of what's happened this season. And I totally understand that. I'd probably be sitting there thinking the same thing, like, hey, I just want to focus on hockey right now. We will have those discussions in the off season. But that to me is the biggest, I guess, I don't want to say turning point. That's the wrong way of putting it. The biggest thing in all of this is where does it go with Adam Fox? Part of me believes that a good portion of me believes that he will be a New York Ranger moving forward. But if that's not the case, this moves from something that in theory was supposed to be shorter term to, if it's all of a sudden now you guys are heading towards a divorce, that's big time. I mean, you're losing a top end guy. So I have no idea where it goes. I thought those comments were pretty interesting though.
Can I add one thing quick, Arthur, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Dan Rosen, good friend of ours from the NHL, just put out his article where he talked to Vinny this morning at the Rangers morning skate. And one of the quotes in his article, which honestly kind of makes me think of Fox a little bit, was this quote: "I think having that time since the letter was released helped just get accustomed to the idea of, hey, maybe I'm not going to be here anymore," Trocheck said, "but still, I've only been traded once in my career." So that letter, that's got to be what everyone's thinking, right? You put out that letter, whether you're Adam Fox, Vinny Trocheck, Mika Zibanejad, Igor Shesterkin, I don't care who you are, but you're probably thinking it's only human nature about the idea of not being here anymore. So Fox has probably had a lot of time to sit with that, especially the 3-week break, not being with the Olympic team and being away from it a little bit. And I'll lead you into that, Arthur.
That's a good point to make. And I was going to make it too, that, it was reported that Chris Drury went to the guys with the core guys with no move clauses, who you named Zibanejad, Fox, Shesterkin, Gavrikov, and JT Miller. And they all reportedly said, we're in. That's right. That's the immediate aftermath of the letter. That's before the Panarin trade. And now you have a 2.5-week break where everybody's with their families. They may be talking to their agents. They're not around their teammates. They're not around Chris Drury. They're not around Mike Sullivan. And you got more time to digest where you are. And you're hearing it from your families. You're hearing it from your buddies. What's going on? Why do you want to stay? And now, as we were going through that break, like Rupper and I heard the same things, that Gavrikov may not have been a hard contract to move since he's in year 1 of 7, but he might not be all in. You wonder about Zibanejad, who spent, was with his teammates over in Sweden. Like, maybe he's hearing it from other guys saying, like, why do you want to stay if you have a choice? And here's Adam Fox, a guy who's been in his career, inadvertently or not, been about controlling where he wants to be. He didn't want to be in Calgary. He was blocked and didn't want to make it through, fight through the rungs to get into the top 6 in Carolina. I saw a better path somewhere else. He ended up being the team that he's rooted for his whole life. And you also have to look at some of the details of his contract. He's got the full no move. After next season, it goes down to a modified no trade. I think it's either 12. I think it's 16 teams. So then you start to lose a little bit of control after next season. And what indications do we have that the Rangers are going to be any better than they are right now next season? Zero. That's how. Could be worse even if they still selling people off. So if Adam Fox's career to this point is about his incredible IQ, his ability to see things that other people don't see, and he is asked a question that is not about, that again could have prompted what Rupper said, a very enthusiastic, I'm here, I'm a Ranger, I'm not even thinking about that stuff. And instead, Adam Fox, very smart guy, says what he says in response to that question. And Johnny, you've known him a long time.
Yeah.
He's not just throwing that out there and saying, oops, I may have misspoken. He knows what he's doing. And I feel like the time that they've had to think about it, whether it's Mika Zibanejad with his guys that he's played with since childhood for Team Sweden at the Olympics, or Adam Fox being with his family during the break. Now I think you come to your senses maybe a little bit, or you come to the realization, not come to your senses, but you come to the realization that there is life elsewhere. And if Trocheck gets moved, maybe even if Braden Schneider gets moved, what's left? So it's not a conversation for this week, I don't think, but I really feel like this summer, Fox and Zibanejad to me are the two guys to watch, because if they decide they want out, Adam Fox can control the situation this summer with the full no move. He can tell Chris Drury, I want to be traded and I only want to go to a few places. Obviously they could wait him out till the no move turns into a no trade in the summer of 2028 or 2027 rather. But I think it's, and this to me is also like, it sounds like a chess game, like you're like he's competing against his own GM, and I don't want to portray it like that, but it is a little bit of a power dynamic, and I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. What Adam Fox, like you pointed, Johnny's he's a relatively new dad. He lives up here near me, and he's he's his own person and has a family, and you don't really want to uproot that. But I'm curious to see where it's going to go. And Johnny, I was going to kick it back to you. You were there when he answered that question.
Yeah.
And you know him. Like, you feel like he knew what he was doing given that answer?
So I'm happy you did that. And sorry, Rupper, I know you want to get some thoughts in here, I'm sure. But I actually give a lot of respect to Peter Baugh. Peter's just doing his job. But I do think Adam was flustered and caught by surprise with the question. We hadn't talked to Adam Fox since the letter had come out, and his first media availability was after a game and after an overtime loss. So I think the situation of when he was asked the question, I don't know if he saw that coming, but he probably should have. I think it's fair to say he should have saw it coming. But by his reaction, I think he was like in the moment, you know how it is. I mean, Rupper, you could speak to it firsthand. Like, there's a lot of emotion after these games, especially 5-10 minutes after the game ends, especially in the fashion the Rangers lost it. They had a 2-0 lead. They had a power play in OT. They don't score in the power play. They're caught out on the ice, and Michkov scores a breakaway goal in 4-on-4. And your thoughts are kind of just within the game. And then that question gets hit, and he probably didn't really have enough time to process it. But to what you were saying before, it's a lot of the things he didn't say, which is just true feelings. And the last thing I'll say about it before I kick it over to you, Rupper, with his response, the pressure is like off of him now, and the pressure is all on Chris Drury and the Rangers. He has now put it out there that they have to go out and find a way to make him, their highly touted best skater, happy, or else he has no reason to want to stay.
Yeah, I mean, the other part also is that this is nothing that the Rangers have to do. Even if you know what I mean, like that's the tough spot. The Rangers could sit there and be like, "Hey, we're not trading you." And I would totally understand if they would say that, because they know that you can't just find Adam Foxes everywhere and players that are going to be our top end defensemen. So yeah, I think that's going to be, to me, the key element in all this. How far of a return to competitiveness the Ranger team's going to be is really, for me, around the Adam Fox situation.
And with that too, like if you're sitting here saying, why would the Rangers trade him, or why wouldn't the Rangers trade him? If I'm the Rangers on this side, you got to think a guy who's entering the prime. I know people have said he's not the same since his injury from Aho and the hit against Carolina a couple years ago. He was still playing at a top level of elite NHL defenseman before he got hurt this year. And I still think he has that within him. But Adam Fox needs to be around good players. He is not Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar in the sense that he can take over a game by himself with his own individual skill. He makes the individual skill guys that much better. So if you are a contending team right now that's looking for a right-handed shot defenseman, like a San Jose who's looking to, make the playoffs and try to build something there with Macklin Celebrini and the talent they have and Will Smith and all these guys, or Boston, who is all in on Rasmus Anderson and a right shot defenseman. Like if you're those teams, if you get Adam Fox, a right-handed shot defenseman, you have a ton of assets like those teams do. I think those teams would be smart to want to trade for Adam Fox, and the Rangers would be stupid to not trade him. If you're, talking about a rebuild, if you have no Panarin, no Trocheck, like what the hell do you got? So I don't know. Like it just seems to me like it would be foolish for Adam Fox to want to stay here, and it would be foolish for the Rangers to not want to trade him with where we're at right now. I'm kind of on both sides of that. I don't know.
I'll make one last point that
and then we can move on.
With Fox and Shesterkin back for the first time in whatever it was 2 months,
Yeah.
They look like a competitive team again. I mean, obviously Shesterkin makes a huge difference in net. They were getting D-level goaltending. No offense, Jonathan Quick, legendary Hall of Famer, but they weren't getting anything in net for the month and a half that Shesterkin was out. And on D, they looked terrible with Adam Fox out. And here they are. I understand it's Philly, Pittsburgh. That they were kind of dead in the
Pittsburgh's
water.
been playing well.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, as far as competence goes, like they looked totally incompetent for the time that these two guys were out, and it just shows how important they are. And if they're gonna keep getting rid of their core guys, if Fox or Mika say in the summer, I think it's time to move on. Like, you're just hitting that reset clock by another season or two at least for each of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another consideration for me, that like they're not going to be this bad next year with Fox and Shesterkin and Zibanejad and maybe some other pieces changed around or some other young guys. Like, it won't get worse if those guys aren't here. If one or both of them aren't here, buckle up. It's going to get way worse.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I wanted to talk Rangers too, and that is just a question, because I still think when you're a team that has only won 2 regulation games at home, I think it's important, even though you sent that letter out, all these things, you know that you're playing down the stretch here to play out these games, but you got to try to get some sort of atmosphere at MSG, and you got to win. You got to try to sprinkle in some wins now and again. I just wonder at what point, like, what do fans want? What do our listeners want as far as when do we just see these younger, more inexperienced players get forced into certain situations? Because that, to me, is what you really have to smoke out in these last 20. And so we see, we're seeing Laugh getting PP1. That should be the obvious. But it takes me back to that Philly game. I don't know what to think about it, because you had the way that game ended on that Michkov goal. Mm-hmm. You had the, what was it, the 4-on-4 or whatever. The entire 2 minutes were played by Mika, Vinny, JT, and Fox.
Yeah.
The entire 2 minutes. So that's fine if you're going to end the game, but it's also kind of like, all right, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you should probably change. Yeah. Like, that's a proper thing to do in a situation like that. Stay fresh. And you could see on the Michkov when he gets out, like, they were gassed. They were pooched. Like, it's just bad hockey in that moment. But at the same time, when do people want to see other players in those spots? Like, I personally think in these last 20, I think you spread the wealth of both your power play units. I think you break up everybody. You have one unit that's got Adam Fox. You got one unit that has Mika Zibanejad, and whatever you want to sprinkle in there. And you say to everybody, hey, we're going a minute each. Like, that's what we're doing here. Like, you've got to start having and putting some of these other players in situations, because you have to smoke out what you potentially have here. So I don't know. That was one thing that I was just curious what people thought, what you guys thought, and maybe some of our listeners. Like, when is it where you want to see the kids getting forced in situations more than necessarily winning the hockey game?
Well, I think it's hard with this coaching staff. Like, these are not guys who were brought in for this situation, right? Like,
David
Quinn. Mike Sullivan's coaching to win
coach.
Games. Yeah, but Mike Sullivan's coaching to win hockey games. Like, he's not.
I don't see how using Vinny Iorio over Scott Morrow.
That's so stupid to me. Yeah,
and Adam Edstrom, who was I think Molly asked Mike Sullivan this morning about Adam Edstrom, who's been skating. He's missed a ton of time, but I think Mike Sullivan basically said, like, it's performance based. He's healthy, and it's like Adam Edstrom has been a good contributor for this team the last couple of years when he's been healthy. Like, still a young guy. Like, to me, those are some head scratchers, and it's not the end of the world. Adam Edstrom is probably not going to be anything more than a bottom 6 guy, or as far as Johnny's concerned, with Ty Cartier, a middle 6 guy.
Third liner.
Rangers have about 11 bottom 6 guys at the moment.
Third liner, middle 6.
Somebody's got to be in the middle 6. But yeah, when you're taking waiver shots on guys like Iorio and Cartier, it's a lot. It's a scratch off ticket. Give it a shot. But you've got, they sent Brennan Othman back down. I know he's gotten a little bit of run. They set Brett Berard back down. Edstrom's sitting. Morrow is sitting. Like, that to me is you're not really sending the right message that like, oh yeah, we're going to retool and we're going to get all these prospects and these picks and we're going to develop them. It's like, well, the guys you were supposed to be developing for the last few years are all in the minors are sitting in street clothes. Like,
yeah.
So those are small parts of this whole big picture, but they're not inspiring for sure. I'll agree with you.
So you're always coaching to win and you're always playing to win, but you could still do two things at once where you're sitting there and you're like, all right, let's put Morrow out there on the power play with Mika and JT, or you know what I mean? Like you don't leave them out there and put them on a second unit with guys who generally don't see a ton of time either. So like you could still win with those guys shoulder to shoulder with the guys, the leaders, the guys you have on this roster. So that's kind of the big thing for me is when are we going to get to that point? I thought that was kind of disappointing against Philly in that regard. Mm-hmm. And you're getting in the bottom 20 games. Like it's garbage time in a lot of regards around the league for certain teams, but it's also like this is where you got to smoke out some stuff because you can't go into next season and you've got to be able to figure out, all right, we believe we can slot this player here and this player there. Like, what do we know about Scott Morrow? Have we learned anything about Scott Morrow this year? Like, I think we've wanted to see more and we haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Scotty Morrow's game for a while because I did the color commentary for his games at UMass, and I'll tell you what, like he played Saturday, he had a fine game. I didn't think he had a bad game by any means. Had a couple decent looks offensively, but it looks like from Vince Mercogliano's lineup tweet today, he's back out of the lineup and Iorio's back in, and it makes no sense. Why is Vlad Gavrikov quarterback in the second power play? Like
that's my point. Like, that's kind of my point.
I get you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
No, at some point here, you can still strive to win hockey games, but allow the young kids to have equity in that.
Yes,
and that's where you're winning on both sides. That's where you're winning on both sides. And I don't mean to compare it to this because Sully did do this last year. Like down the stretch in Pittsburgh, there was a stretch there where the power play he was distributing both units. And you had Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen. They put them both out there on the power play, but they were out there with – it was like a split unit, so I don't recall if Carlson was on that one or Letang. But and then you had like Crosby on it. Like you're giving yourself a chance because you still got the guys that are supposed to lead your power play, but you're also bringing in the next wave to give them a taste. Yeah. And those guys – McGroarty and Koivunen haven't really done much for the Pens this year, but it's at least you get to smoke some things out. And those guys had really great moments in those couple games down the stretch. So that's it. I just want to see some of these players. I want us all to feel like, I mean, it's important for the team. They're the ones that have to self-evaluate, but like, I want us to be able to look at it and be like, all right, man, this is what we learned about these players. And right now I feel like we're still trying to find the wins, but I don't need to see a loaded top unit right now. We know who the loaded top unit is when they're game one next year. So I guess that's it.
No, I'm with you. You're tied for second to last in the league. What are you doing? Like what? Just give.
Try to win. Try to win, but make them a part of it.
Yeah. At this point, what does it matter? Let's talk Islanders because we don't have a ton of time today. Devils fans, we apologize ahead of time. It's not going to be a lot of Devils today, but obviously, as we get closer to the deadline, Friday morning, Friday show, will probably be Devils heavy, I imagine, with whatever they do with the deadline. But we're going to go Islanders here. And Chris from Hicksville has been tweeting at us for like 3 weeks about a voicemail. So let's just kick it over to Chris from Hicksville if we can, Vic, and let's lead with that for the Islanders conversation.
Hey guys, Chris from Hicksville. I enjoyed watching on the YouTube there the live broadcast you guys in the city, although I have to say, Johnny, when you said Jersey John was your favorite caller, it just was another thing to add to discuss with the therapist.
You got to show up, Chris. Come on.
We've just gotten over the fact that you tried an online campaign to get Barzell traded with your cohort on that other show. Anyway, as I digress, Cole Eisman, we've been talking a lot about him, trade deadline a little under a week away. We've seen recently a couple more highlight clips that are just like, wow, that's special. And my question to you guys is that something, if you're Italian evaluator, if you're Matthew Darsh, that gives you pause, on trading someone who has that kind of skill, who you can't teach? Or is it, hey, that's great, fantastic, but it is the NCAA. Let's not college hockey. Let's not get too crazy about all this, and maybe it ups his value. How do you guys come down on that? Is that something to give you pause when you see a skill like that, or not? Thanks, and love the show.
Great voice,
Johnny. You're a college hockey analyst.
Yeah,
you gotta take this one.
Worth the wait. I think, first of all, thanks, Chris. Sorry about giving Jersey John the title, but right now it's Jersey John's title for someone to take. Like, we're diehard Jersey John guys. Listen, I think college hockey, everyone's different, right? Cole Eisman, we know he's a pure goal scorer. I think he's still trying to round out his game in college, and I think most people would say he probably needs one more year of college hockey. He had an injury this year that stunted him a little bit, and he's also an Islanders prospect that was not picked by this current regime. Like, Matthew Darche did not pick Cole Eisman, so I don't think there's any attachment to Cole Eisman from Darche's perspective. So if Darche wants to use Eisman as a little ploy to make a trade, I think he should. I'm a big Cole Eisman fan. I know him personally. Great kid. I think he would love Long Island. I think he'd be great here. But, he probably still is 2-3 years away from maybe being an NHL regular. Would still probably need some time in the AHL. And as far as having the skill you can't teach when it comes to scoring goals, I've seen plenty of guys who have scored a lot of goals in college that still have not cracked the NHL and become NHL regulars. John Leonard, Ryan Leonard's older brother, and this is not like a slight at John Leonard. He should have won, in my opinion, the Hobie Baker the year that COVID happened. He had 28 goals, I think, going into COVID. And still, Johnny Leonard, great player, has had a hard time becoming an NHL regular. Drafted by the San Jose Sharks. Now he's with Detroit. He played a couple games this year, but hasn't been able to stick up with the big club. Adam Gaudette, Hobie Baker winner, my freshman year, scored 30 plus goals in college. Yeah, he's a fine NHL player, but he has not been steady top 6 player that he was in college. I think everyone is just a little bit different. You don't really know what they're going to pen out to be. Cole Eisman, I think everyone would hope he's going to be a solidified top 6 guy, but you don't really know until they get there. So I think if you can trade Cole Eisman for a sure thing in the NHL right now, it'd be foolish for the Islanders to not do that. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
Any notes?
We're going to get. I appreciate Chris. We needed to get to that question, and I've been we've been talking about Cole Eisman being kind of the B plus prospect that probably needs to be part of any deal if Matthew Darche is really going to go for it. Whether it's Jordan Kyrou, whether you can, and I feel like with the Leafs now, maybe there's a conversation to be had with the Leafs about Matthew Nyes. Sorry, Vic, but I feel like I would give up a lot to get Matthew Nyes on my team if I was the Islanders. I
haven't heard anyone say that. Is that a possibility?
I mean, if people are going to be talking about whether Austin's going to stay or not the next couple of years, like I think you have to have a conversation about everybody. If the Leafs put out their own letter this week from Keith Pelley, the MLSE president, basically saying, yeah. I mean, it wasn't quite as candid as Chris Drury's, but if the Leafs are headed to a big retool themselves, then yeah, you gotta have that conversation if you're any other GM that's going to contend. So, and if Cole Eisman is a part of it, it's obviously Cole Eisman and Colorado's first round pick. It's not going to be enough for Jordan Kyrou. It's not going to be enough for Matthew Nyes. It's probably not even going to be enough for Matt Coronado if they could pry him out of Calgary, or maybe it's enough for Cole Perfetti if that's the sort of young, cost-controlled top 6 forward that the Islanders want to bring into their roster, a guy who can score goals and grow a little bit into a team that's getting, still probably too old, especially their forward group. And that's, I think Cole Eisman is a gamble that Matthew Darche is willing to take. I think he said it even during the break that he's looking for a scorer. Maybe now is not going to be the time in terms of what the cost is for a guy like Kyrou or one of those other guys. But I feel like of all of their prospects, even if they were huge Cole Eisman fans, he's the guy that makes the most sense. They've got some other college guys who are a little bit older, like Danny Nelson and Quinn Finley, who, probably project out as at best third line guys in the NHL if they can make it that far. But Cole Eisman could be a superstar in the league. If he puts it all together, like Chris was saying, he's got a skill you can't teach. He has a lot of other stuff that he has to put in his game before he gets there. So I think that's a gamble that another team that's rebuilding or retooling or whatever you want to call it would be willing to take if you had him as a centerpiece of your package. So that's why we always kind of fall on that name, I think.
I think a lot of times when you hear young players' names come up, people all automatically may think like, oh, does that mean that this team doesn't like that player? Does this mean that they don't believe this player is going to be X as an NHL prospect? I don't think that's the case. I think when you look at it from the situation, you guys all touched on it. I want to pick out three things. One, I mean, this is a pipeline that hasn't always, in recent years, been very deep, and this is so that's part of it. So when you're one of the higher prospects in a team's pool, your name's going to come out often. Now, you also say about the same thing is that we've talked about them maybe finding this new window for this team because of the Schaefer effect, and we've talked about it a ton just as far as how you've got this year and two more before Matthew Schaefer has to get paid, where maybe you've got this new window of making moves to try to do something big in that time. So
Sorokin too, Rupper. Sorokin also, I think, big part of that, right?
Yeah, Sorokin too. So it's just the timing, the nature, the timing of it all as far as where the team's at, the fact that it's not overly deep. And plus, to you mentioned it, Johnny, too. He might be a couple years out. So all those things adding up, I mean, that's not saying Cole Yzerman is not a good player, is not going to be a good player. If anything, getting talked about and your name being out there might be a really good thing because there's a lot of interest out there. So, I'll be interested to see where this goes. But that's the name that I think, like you mentioned, Arthur, this is probably any deal, I think, probably starts with Cole Yzerman. And depending on whom it is, you go from there on what else is involved.
Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, too. I'm a big Cole Yzerman fan. So I was excited that he got picked here. It's cool to have him in this area. Arthur, did you have one more thought? We have another voicemail from Scott, I believe, but if you want to get something out here. All right. From Scott.
Hey, fellas. This is the anonymous caller that called in saying, Ranger fans need to stop crying. My name is Scott, and I'm from Massapequa. And I just want to say that I got Ranger fans to do two things. Admit that they have a horrible history, only winning 4 cups in 100 years, when they only had to beat 5 teams in the NHL for X amount of years, and that they cannot stop crying. Also, I just want to throw in there that Matthew Schaefer is the man. He just tucked his 20th goal of the year. And Carson Soucy also banged one home today. In that same breath, I would like to say that Matthew Schaefer is on a pace to make Brian Leach, Rangers legend, look like Carson Soucy. Anyways, Ranger fans are big crybabies. They have a terrible history, and I would be embarrassed to be one of those. Anyways, wow. What are you guys doing at the deadline if you're the Islanders? Personally, not a huge fan of Jordan Kyrou. I don't know. He just gives me the heebie-jeebies, and he just scares me a bit due to his time in St. Louis. I'd be fine if they just said, let's just run it. But they need a scorer, so I would love to hear some out-of-the-box ideas. Love the pod, fellas, and keep it up.
Thanks, Scott. Fuck you, but thanks, Scott. Arthur, I think you just made some good points, though. Like, the names that you just threw out there, Coronado and Perfetti, like Winnipeg is done. Their season's done. I don't think they're coming back from 9 points out right now. Calgary's been done for a while. What were the other names you mentioned just now?
I mentioned Matthew Nyes. That's kind of the ideal
that's the big one.
Winger for me. I don't mean to cut you off, but I feel like there was some talk that before they got Andre Palat that they were talking with Nashville about Michael Bunting, and it got pretty close. And I guess you can circle back around and have that be kind of your plan B if you strike out on something big. But I feel like 30-something rentals are not going to be the guys that move the needle right now for the Islanders. You'd rather see them, like Scott said, run with what they've got than kind of create space. They've got 14 NHL forwards. All of them can play. They've got some veteran guys that are already missing in action scoring wise. Jonathan Drouin, I know he's out day to day, but no goals in 42 games, and he's still getting top 6 minutes. No points in 15. Emil Heineman was super hot at the beginning. He's cooled off. Anthony Duclair can't stay in the lineup. Max Shabanov, who had some good skill moments early on. You're not just adding another guy to this forward group. You need to be able to take a big swing, and I would guess based on just some of the limited public comments that Matthew Darche has made, he's trying to take a big swing. I think I think their focus has changed. We talked about it a lot during the season. It's not just about rewarding the team. It's about what Rupper said. You've got Matthew Schaefer at his cheapest cost against the cap that you're ever going to get him for these next couple of years. You've got Ilya Sorokin playing a super high level. And Ilya Sorokin's 30 years old. You're not going to necessarily get this level forever. And I think all you need to do is look at the opponent they played last night and watch some of those goals that Sergei Bobrovsky let up. And I understand Bob has played a ton and he's 10 years older, but goalies, the run doesn't last forever, especially if they end up playing a lot in the playoffs. So you gotta strike while you can. So I kind of feel like there's a chance here, and it's, naming off some of those young guys because you're trying to keep open a window now that maybe you didn't think was going to be open at the beginning of the season, and extend it. They're getting good contributions from JG Pageau and Anders Lee these last few games. Two veteran guys who are on expiring deals. They're not going to trade them by Friday, obviously. They might not extend them in the summer, but you got to replace them. Without those two guys, they don't win any of these last three games that they've had coming out of the break. And they certainly were not super impressive all the way through in any of the three of them. But so I feel like there's kind of a narrow space for Darche to operate in an ideal way. And it's taking that Colorado first, taking maybe Cole Eiserman, taking maybe a young D that they've got in their system like Isaiah George. Maybe you go a little bit further down. I don't think any of the guys they picked in the first round are on the table, whether it's obviously not Schaefer or Keishon Aitchison, who's already got 26 goals for Barrie in the OHL, or Victor Eklund, who's over in Sweden. Those are Darche's guys. But I think pretty much anything else to me would be on the table to get a scorer in here, because who is scaring you? If you trade that package and a couple other assets for Jordan Kyrou and put him at the top of this lineup with Horvat and Barzal, let's say, and put him on your top power play, which is 30th in the league, you're a contender. You are a contender. So to me, that's the way that Darche should be operating in these next few days.
So first off, Vic, I don't know if did Scot spell his name with one T?
Yeah.
Like that?
I don't know if, yeah.
Is that a Vic thing or is that a Scot thing? Because I couldn't get past that for a little bit. What the fuck was that?
That was
but anyways,
Johnny wanted to embarrass him. He just erased the last T because he was pissed about all the Ranger hate.
I love the call. I love getting a little bit of spicy calls coming in are always good. I just want to say the one thing to Scott about Jordan Kyrou, because I agree with you too. There is a little bit of hesitation. Because, I mean, if you are a 27-year-old that has scored 36 goals, 37 goals, 31 goals in the NHL in different years, you're not going to be made available unless there's something there. Like that, is there what's lacking? It's not a new contract that's about to be given that you can't afford. He's already under contract. So there's some uncertainty there. There's risk involved. You're going to get that when you are going to trade a player, because the other team is willing to give up on that player. So, but Jordan Kyrou is an interesting one. I am nervous on that one too, but we have seen him do that already. And he's, quite frankly, he's kind of done it at times without a number one center. I mean, Robert Thomas has turned into a heck of a centerman in St. Louis. But I mean, you go back a number of years, it's a little bit before even Robert Thomas was doing his thing. And, just the way that Jordan Kyrou can provide something unique. So that's one where, is there risk? Absolutely. But the reward, man, it's really high. Like, he could be a 40-goal guy each year. So, and when you start thinking of some of those other players out there, maybe the comps out there, most of them aren't 36, 37 goal scorers in the National Hockey League. So I don't know. That's the one I know we were talking about early on. I'm sure that's one that has been coming up in a lot of different places, and everything's got to be the price being right to go and acquire a player. But that's the one thing that intrigues me about him is, man, we've seen this guy. He's performed. He's got like 500 games in the NHL, and he's 27 years old.
Do you take a chance on Patrick Laine?
No.
Maybe?
No, I don't. No, I don't believe
it's just another goal scorer that I'm looking at names,
No, I mean, Patrick Laine he's a power play specialist
which they could
that
use.
Stands in the one spot of the ice. I mean, elite shooter, elite shooter. After that, he's not offering you much. So if he's not putting the puck in the net, he's not doing much for you. You can't pay. I mean, okay, let me back that up a second. If I can get Patrick Laine on a $1 million deal, then yes, I'd be willing to do that. But he would never ever do that, I don't believe. So there's not enough there as far as when he's not scoring, he's not really providing much at all.
Mm-hmm. The other part with Kyrou or whoever you're bringing in is none of them played with Matthew Schaefer. Like, maybe Jordan Kyrou's a 50-goal guy playing with Matthew Schaefer. Who knows?
No.
That's like my Lafreniere thing. Come on.
I just mean that the Schaefer factor with this team is so unknown and so untapped, even though he's been doing what he's been doing, and it's been incredible. But like they have, Bo Horvat's having a great scoring year. Matthew Schaefer is the second leading goal scorer on this team, and he's a scorer, but he's first and foremost a playmaker, a guy who opens up a lot of room for other people. So if you get another guy who has the track record scoring goals Jordan Kyrou does, I would imagine that's something you want to be a part of. And maybe that's a good conversation for July 1, where the Islanders haven't been a destination for free agents, where guys might now say, hey, I want to play with Matthew Schaefer and I want to play with Matthew Barzal. Schaefer, got to shout him out for first star of the week. Mm-hmm. This kid is just fucking ridiculous with what he single-handedly turned that game around in Montreal. Noah Dobson must have had 10 grand on the board for that game. He was possessed at the beginning of that game, and Schaefer just went out 2 shifts and he said, nope, I'm just going to take this game back. And everybody, it's funny to see the people who follow the Canadians who were trying to make it out throughout this season, that Ivan Demidov and Schaefer are kind of in contention for the Calder together. And now after that one game in Montreal, everybody who follows Canadians is like, my bad. No, it's all.
Yeah.
So, and you see this goal, you just watch him take this space. That is a play of a guy who's got 10 years in the league. The shot deflects, and the first goal he had was the most ridiculous goal I've ever seen, where it went off 3 Florida legs, crossbar, and Bob's back. But you got to be good to be lucky, right? But this kid can end up with 30 goals. I mean, this is like Dennis Potvin when nobody played defense territory. Yeah, this is the one that ricocheted off everybody. 1, 2, 3, crossbar, back in. Like, yeah, he's the closest thing we've got to a hockey god now. Like, everything's going right for him. It's incredible. And you see the way the guys react to him. Like they're down 2-0 in each of these 3 games. And I know he didn't score in Columbus, but the other 2, it's really him. He is dragging them along with the way that he's playing. And it's incredible to watch. I don't know how long it's going to last. That's another reason why I would want to add another good scorer, because who knows what's going to happen to him in a 7-game series. If they're in a series against Pittsburgh and somebody comes in and starts targeting him the way that like Mason Marchment has done in the games in Columbus, I don't know if they'd have an answer for that. So you want some more scoring options besides him, but watching him is just incredible.
Robert, you got some?
He is the most impactful 18-year-old that we have seen
ever,
or rookie. Let's even say rookie, as far as being a first overall pick since Crosby, Ovechkin. And because when you go back, Austin Matthews
scored 40. He scored 40. You got to give him
on, though. Here's the kicker, though, because we just looked at it. We were looking at that today because Matthews' name did come up because he scored 40. But he also came in at a time that same year, Nylander had 61. You had Marner with 61. Like, there was a lot to work with there offensively. So I'm not trying to take away from 40 goals as a rookie. You kidding me? But what Matthew Schaefer's doing, I think surpasses that. I think it goes back all the way to Crosby, Ovechkin when they came into the league. That's how effective this kid has been. And this is just kind of something fun like that. I don't
think those teams made the playoffs either. I don't think the Penguins made the playoffs.
Well, they didn't have a goalie who's probably going to win the Vezina either to get in.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing for me when I think about Matthew Schaefer this year, and it's just a fun little game to play. If you were to expand all these categories for awards, I don't know where that magic number is. Say it's 10. So say you said the top 10 for rookie of the year. Obviously, he's number 1. Bang, there. You're going to expand it top 10 to the Norris. He's there. He's in that conversation. You want to expand it top 10 in the MVP voting, Hart Trophy? That's a conversation. That is a conversation. Like, I'm not saying he should win it. There's so many guys that I think have done more, but it's crazy to think that he is, when you're talking 10, top 10 or wherever that magic number is, he's in every conversation. He's in every single conversation there, and you can't argue that he hasn't been that important.
1,000%. And one thing I wanted to kind of make, like, I guess, put a bow on this conversation, but to get both your thoughts. Well, first of all, too, Stefan Rosser this morning on our show said the Islanders aren't developing Schaefer. Schaefer's developing the Islanders. And that was just great. It's like it's so perfect. But I think the conversation we were having the whole year, right to the deadline, was like, give Schaefer time, let him get acclimated. Let's see what we got in Schaefer. And then in a couple years, the Islanders will load up on all these picks. You'll get Eichison, you'll get Eklund, you'll get Yzerman. They're going to be loaded for years to come. Once Schaefer has arrived and is there, he's here. You don't need to wait 3 years to go all in. I think the Islanders should be like chips in the middle right now. After Tampa and Carolina, guess who's the best in the East? It's probably the Islanders, maybe the Sabres with how they've been playing, but the Islanders have done it all year. I really do think if I had a hypothetical gun to my head and I had to name the best teams in the Eastern Conference after Carolina and Tampa, I'm saying the New York Islanders. So if you want to go and take your shot to reach a conference final this year, you should do it. I think they should do it. I think it'd be foolish not to.
So just to throw it out there, so Quinn Hughes has next year, and then he's UFA. So that extension time can come this summer with Minnesota if it's going to be Minnesota. It's hard to really put a guess on where he will sign. And you got him and McCarr, both those two guys, they're the bar and as far as what you're going to get paid. And you can't automatically just say, oh, well, Matthew Schaefer should get as much as those guys. That would be his second contract. And sometimes that's taken into account as well. But let's just, for shits and giggles, say that number for Quinn. If he wanted to, say that number's where were you going to throw the dart?
15 and a half.
I'm sorry. I'd say 15. 15.
Okay, say 15.
Yeah.
So say 15 and Kale is right in that range, maybe 16, whatever. Matthew Schaefer's going to have – he's going to get paid. So let's say Matthew Schaefer's in somewhere in that range between, 12 and 15. I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass. That's a significant piece of the cap, deservedly so. It's money well spent for that guy. But that's why that window's now, because you got him now at under $1 million. And he is playing we just said, he's playing like a comparable MVP. A Norris winner. You know what I mean? So that's why that changes everything. So it's funny because Matthew Darsh, who I think's done a really, really good job here, and he's gotten this situation, and he had a really hard job to do when he took over this team. It's like, how do I transition this team but stay relevant in some ways, or try to, because they had a lot of quote unquote bad contracts, older players. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I gotta turn this thing into a winner here real quick. It's a good problem to have, but it's a tough situation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I got nothing else to say. I can't compliment these guys too much. It's absurd what we've seen. Let's try to do
Johnny, after Friday, this is an Islanders podcast. So you better
1,000%. 1,000%. No, it is, Philly. And that's not even a joke. Let's talk Devils for 10 minutes because we have to talk Devils for sure. I think we have a couple of voicemails from Devils fans. Maybe Vic, if we can play one of those, but we only have 10 minutes. So apologies, Devils fans. This is from Guy Matz.
Hey, gents. I'm a Devils fan living in northern Italy for a couple of years, going to school. So I went to go see the Sweden-Slovakia match to go see Jesper Bratt. And of course, he didn't play. I guess he had missed an assignment on a power play that led to a shorthanded goal, and ever since then he's been benched. And so I guess my question is, do coaches still think that benching a player helps? Does that do any good for anyone? And specifically about Brad, was it really just that? It must have been something bigger, but I can't imagine what. So I look forward to your insight.
Rapper, I feel like this is kind of your breadbasket here.
Yeah, I mean, does ice time and benching does it do anything? Yeah, I mean, that's all you got these days. I mean, don't get me on that soapbox going back to even youth hockey. Like, that's all coaches have nowadays. You can't do anything else. So, yeah, it's still, there's still something there. As far as that situation with Brad, I mean, it was pretty well documented that this Swedish coach was probably going against the grain pretty hard as far as decisions that he made, just even to start that tournament with Phil Forsberg, with Jesper Bratt. I mean, we saw in that last game against Team USA, like Bratt was by far their best player. Not their barely played prior to that. And so, like, you even go in that game, an elimination game, after not playing him, so you put him back in the lineup, you expect him to play, didn't even really play until that third period. So, yeah, I mean, it's something. It's something. It's hard to think about it in a short tournament like that. But in the National Hockey League, like, that's your only way to get across to a player, because nowadays it's like it's just you could talk players through things, but until you feel it, and players want to play. I mean, that's plain and simple. So I still think there's value in it. I don't think you can go to that well all the time, but if you do it once in a while, I think it'll get their attention.
I agree. I think, and we saw it happen with the Islanders this year, but, like, you know, so many guys, and this happens throughout the course of an 82-game season, Repper. I can't speak to it firsthand as a player in the NHL, but, like, you know, I know in my junior career, my college career, like, you just kind of get a little comfortable. You know, you're in a rhythm, and then all of a sudden your mind wanders, you coast a little bit, and just getting benched is like, all right, fuck, I got to dial it back in. You know, like, that's just kind of a wake-up call, reality check. Like, those things do work. Sometimes being scratched is a little bit more personal. You know, I think a benching, like, isn't as big of a deal, but a scratch is like you better wake the fuck up. You know, like, a benching is like dial back in. So I think that's how I would probably define the differences between those two things. Arthur, if you had something on this one.
Nope, all good. Let's go to the last Devils.
Okay.
What do we got?
Yeah. All right, one more from Ben.
Rappe. This is Benny from North Carolina, formerly from New Jersey. Rupper, want your opinion on the Devils' biggest siblings franchise miss? Was it them not being able to acquire Rob Niedermayer when Scott Niedermayer was going to become a free agent? Or was it them not having sufficient cap space to acquire Quinn Hughes when they seemingly had all the power in the world to do it and the means to get him, but didn't? Anyways, it would have been nice to have Quinn, Jack, and Luke all on the same team because, you know, got to play with the brothers. Easy, Rupper.
I think this answer is easy.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
this has got to be Quinn Hughes.
Scott
Niedermayer still won 3 cups. Scott Niedermayer won 3 cups.
That time with the Niedermayer, it was the tough thing at that time was, like, you lost Scotty to retirement. You lose. Well, I mean, you can go, you know, Dano as well. You go Dano, Scotty Stevens, Scott Niedermayer, and even Brian Rafalski a little bit after that. None of those guys are really replaced. So that was kind of like I felt like the end of being a contender when you lost those guys, and maybe having Rob come to New Jersey could have kept needs there a little bit longer. But yeah, it's got to be Quinn, and it's almost not fair to do because of what Quinn has meant to Minnesota, the way that Quinn has played at the Olympics. But yeah, I mean, I'll say this, and I might be wrong, and quite frankly, I hope I am wrong. Every week that passes, it feels more and more like the three of them are not going to be together in New Jersey. I don't know. That's me. That's my opinion.
No, I agree.
I might be dead wrong. But I feel like now that you're starting to see the way that he's accepted and taken in there in Minnesota, and that the team has been thriving, and he goes in those relationships at the Olympics and this and that. Like, I wonder if that is ever going to be an option moving forward. So I would probably say to Ben, thanks for the call. Probably would be Quinn.
Yeah, I agree. Arthur?
Yeah. Yes, and I wouldn't shut the door completely on Quinn never coming here. I feel like this coming off season. Okay, this coming off season is going to be a big upheaval for the Devils. There's going to, I feel pretty confident. I'm not 100% confident, but I feel pretty confident saying a lot is going to change around front office, behind the bench, maybe on the roster too. So I feel like if Quinn Hughes doesn't jump at an extension opportunity with Minnesota this summer, and Jack and Luke get a little bit rejuvenated next season, and the Devils start off well, and then maybe we can, crack the door a little bit more, fair. depending on who comes in here. So I don't know if I can say 100% no like Johnny is, but Johnny, when it comes to Johnny's predictions, I don't know how accurate he always is, but no offense, buddy.
I still think the predictions are different when I know the people personally. That's right? That's fair. But my prediction still is that, and again, this is just a prediction, but I've gotten to know Quinn pretty well over the past few years. I still think Quinn signs a 3-year extension in Minnesota as a appreciation to Billy Guerin for making that trade for him. I know he loves playing on that team with how good they've been, and Quinn and Jack walked to free agency together. I think that's kind of.
I can see that.
I can see that.
That's my logical prediction.
The other part that I could see too, and the Hughes boys are not dummies. Quinn could survey this landscape and say, especially if they lose to Dallas in the first round, which Minnesota has gotten past the first round, twice in 20 plus years. If they get beat and they get beat by Dallas, they don't even get to Colorado, and Colorado's still Colorado and Dallas is still Dallas. He might say, yeah, you know what? If I go to the Devils and the Devils do what they were starting to do when Jack was running everybody's shit the first month and a half of the season, we could be the best team in the East for a long time.
Yeah. That's the LeBron route. The LeBron route, stay in the East, and you got your free pass to the finals every year.
Exactly.
Well, he was also, he was also the best player.
But Quinn is like LeBron, where he can have an impact on that happening. He's not just going to the team to be part of it. He's making it happen.
That's a good point though, because the way that the East stands today.
Yeah.
Maybe not even just the Florida Panthers were that one team the last couple of years, but that's a good point.
But keep in mind,
do you want to stay long term in a spot where those two teams, you're going to have a gauntlet in rounds 1, 2 every single year, basically.
You could finish with 115 points every year as a team. Quinn Hughes could win the Norris every year, and they could lose in 6 games, and it wouldn't be like, oh man, I can't believe that. It would be like, okay, there's 2 other teams that are just as good as them.
Keep in mind, though, what Billy Guerin gave up to get him, and the fact that he just won the gold with John Hines, with Billy Guerin, with Chris Kelleher, with Matt Boldy, with Brock Faber. It's going to be tough to not extend just for
loyalty is never a two-way street, and nor should it be at times. Like Quinn Hughes has earned the right to figure out what he wants to do, and if he wants to be with Jack and Luke and be in a place where they're happy and they live, they've both been on the Devils their whole careers, and this is a place they all want to be, right around New York City. Hey, the 2 of them were just on SNL. You can't do that if you're living in Minnie all the time. So
Quinn just did it. I just hop on a private plane.
Yeah,
that's true.
I am willing to say I'll think of some sort of bet, but I'm willing to make a fun bet that Quinn never plays a game for the Devils.
I haven't sealed the deal on the team bet yet, but I am basically 1-0 so far on Tri-State hockey bets. So I don't know if you want to go against me at this moment, but we'll see.
Yeah,
that's good.
All right, I know we'll get more into Devils later in the week with the deadline. I think our plan right now is to record Friday morning, correct? So we might not be fully up to date with everything going on. Maybe we could talk about doing it live if you guys want. We did that once. It was kind of fun. If that's something that you guys would be interested in, maybe we can do a live Tri-State Friday morning to kick off deadline day. I don't know if Vic would love that, so we'll have to check in with Vic, but that could be a possibility. So stay tuned. We'll kind of announce it on social media, what we plan on doing for Friday's show. That's going to wrap up today's show. We love you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. And as always, This show is presented by our friends at Novig, the future of sports betting. On Novig, you play against other real users, not the house, and it's the only commission-free exchange. So you keep every dollar you win. You'll get better odds than traditional sports books, meaning you're 10 times more likely to win in the long run. Choose the best odds or offer your own. Trade Novig coins for fun or Novig cash to win real prizes. Sign up with code DailyFaceoff to get $50 in Novig coins when you spend $5 on your first purchase. Available in most states. You must be 21 or older to play with no purchase necessary. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you later this week. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see some more Tri-State hockey content, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video below, and also subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.